All right, folks, thank you. We'll kick off now. Hopefully you can hear all right. Okay, so this is the Board of Directors meeting for March 11th, 2026. Thank you and welcome. We are here conducting our business primarily on the territories of the Hoopadgis and Shuswap First Nations, and we should not only recognize, acknowledge, and appreciate that fact. We are conducting our business in a hybrid format today. So we do have people in the building as well as online, which means that there are people who are conducting their business on completely different traditional territories as well. With that in mind, we are live streaming our meeting on YouTube. It's embedded through our website, so you can get there either way. And some people may be attending or spectating as directly through Zoom as well, and we will be monitoring the Q&As, but not necessarily the chat. So with that in mind, we'll go around and do introductions within the room. We'll go this way, and then we will go online afterwards. Thank you. Please go ahead, Cynthia.
Good afternoon, Cynthia Dick, General Manager of Administrative Services.
Good afternoon, Lavana Mastrangelo, representing Uqluit First Nation.
Good afternoon, I'm Rennie Lacourcier. I'm the alternate for Sprout Lake.
Good afternoon, I'm Susan Roth and I'm a director for Beaver Creek.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Squirrel, I'm the director for Cherry Creek.
Good afternoon, I'm Daniel Thayan. I'm the CAO for the ACRD.
Good afternoon, Terry Fong, Chief Financial Officer.
And good afternoon, Alex Dyer, General Manager of Planning and Development.
All right, thank you. We'll go online. Dr. Siga, please go ahead.
Thank you. Veda Sega, Director for Area C Long Beach.
Thank you. And Director Haggard.
Debbie Haggard, Councillor for the City of Port Alberni and Vice Chair for the ACRD Board of Directors. Apologize I can't be there in person today, but happy to be here on Zoom.
Great. And Director Beckett.
Thank you, Chair. Bob Beckett, representing Bamfield Area A. Good afternoon, everyone.
And Director Steer.
Good afternoon, Councillor Tom Steer, appointed Director, District of Tofino.
Thank you. Director Boyko.
Good afternoon, Fred Boyko, Electoral Area Director for Beaufort.
Thank you. And Dr. Johnson.
Afternoon, Kirsten Johnson, Director for the Toquat Nation.
Thank you. And Dr. Minions.
Good afternoon, Shari Minions, Mayor for the City of Port Alberni.
Okay, thank you very much. And Oklahoma Sayachat, my name is John Jack. I'm the Director for the Hawaiian First Nations and the chairperson. So thank you everyone for being here. We do have a bit of an agenda here today. We don't have any changes to the agenda, but we may have some extra materials. Is that correct? So it should have gone out in your emails, but we do have reports for information and then a letter directly from the Pacific Rim School District, which will be a good companion for the presentation that'll be coming up. Could we have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please? Thank you, Director Roth. Seconded by anyone? Thank you, Director Sparrow. Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, we'll declare the motion carried. Thank you. Or no, we do that at Hawaii. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. We do motions by consensus in Hawaii, so you have to actually be opposed to something to go. All right, so with that in mind, that brings us to declarations. Does anyone have any declarations of gifts exceeding $250 or conflicts of interest or perceived conflicts of interest or time constraints, of which I do have one? If there's no one else, okay, seeing none, I have a flight at 5:30-ish, somewhere around that in Nanaimo. So I need to leave by 3:30. So knock on wood. But at that point, we will have to cede the chair to someone in the boardroom. So at least ideally. Okay, so with that in mind, that brings us into presentations. So normally speaking, our presentations and delegations are limited to 10 minutes. Once we get close to that number, what I'll do is I'll hold up 2 fingers or 1 finger. That's not me interrupting you. That's me telling you how many minutes you have left. If it doesn't look like you're pretty dang close to the end of your presentation, I may hit pause by just interrupting you and asking the board to continue. we almost always let you continue. And yeah, from that perspective, I'd like to invite representatives of the Pacific Rim School District 70 to make a presentation. We have quite a few people, Mr. Chris Washington, Madam Pam Craig, Helen Zanette, Larry Ransom, Janice Joseph, James Messenger, Alex Taylor, and that's it. This is on the Alberni District Secondary School Turf Field Project. Thank you and welcome.
Red's on. Okay, got it. Thank you very much. Thank you, board and chair, for allowing us to present to you today. First, I'd like to introduce my assistant superintendent, James Messenger. He'll be speaking shortly, and also director of operations, Alex Taylor. I told Alex I would make an extreme fool of myself so that at the end of this presentation, when he thinks he did a bad job, you'd only remember what a fool I made of myself. So that's we're here to provide a brief overview of the ADSS artificial turf and why it now requires renewal. For over a decade, this facility has supported both school programming and extensive community recreation use. Our message today is very straightforward. This field has long served as a shared regional asset, and sustaining it will require a shared leadership and partner approach moving forward. How did we get here? The ADSS artificial turf was installed in 2012 with the new high school. Like most artificial playing surfaces, these fields do have a finite lifespan of roughly 10 to 15 years, and the surface is now beyond that expected service life. I also came to understand through this process that usually a turf field in a larger center actually lasts approximately 8 to 10 years, so we do get a longer lifespan out of our turf than is normal. We are already seeing increasing wear and drainage concerns, and engineering advice has been that we should begin planning for replacement. It's actually been that for a couple of years now. The challenge we face is primarily financial. Artificial turf replacement is, and I think this is very important everyone understand this, is not eligible for provincial capital funding from the government. School districts do not receive a dedicated funding stream for this type of asset renewal. At the same time, our operating budget cannot absorb a $1 million capital project, as approximately 90% of that budget, excuse me, is committed to staffing and educational programming. Historically, the field has functioned as a shared community facility, but a long-term partnership model for renewal was never established. That is why we are now seeking a collaborative solution. Mr. Messenger is going to get up and follow me.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. Also want to acknowledge that we have members of our Board of Education here, trustees in the audience, and also our partner groups from Alberni Soccer. So what's at stake? Although the field is located at ADSS, it functions as much more than a school facility. For our school district, it's a daily instructional space for the 1,300 students for physical health education classes and school athletics. But for the broader community, it's a critical recreation facility. The Alberni Youth Soccer Program serves roughly 600 participants. Alberni Field Hockey, another 100 participants, and adult soccer leagues with an additional 60 participants. Importantly, this is the only suitable surface for field hockey in the Alberni Valley. These programs are also supported by a large dedicated volunteer base, representing a significant investment of time and energy for our community. The practical concern now is timing. If the surface continues to deteriorate, and we know it's at its end of life, we may be forced to restrict access as early as, and I will acknowledge a typo here, our next round of testing is in the fall, and so restricted access may occur as early as the new year, 2027. Without replacement, local field hockey programming would likely end, soccer opportunities would be limited, and that's why we're seeking partnerships. So a few important notes here. The facility serves the entire region, not only the residents of the city of Port Alberni or ADSS students. Alberni Athletic Soccer Club reports that approximately 39% of their youth live outside the city, coming from areas across the regional district, including the West Coast. That represents about 240 rural participants who regularly use the turf for programming at least once a week in the soccer season, and for many of the participants, multiple times in a week. Artificial turf fields are designed to support significantly higher hours of use than natural grass, and grass fields simply cannot sustain the same level of activity, particularly during the fall and winter months. If the turf field was no longer available, our partner groups tell us that programming would need to shift to the natural grass fields, and because of that, the level of programming would be limited and reduced. So it may be helpful to just explain quickly how school district funding works. Our school district operates with three primary funding streams. The operating fund, as Trustee Washington mentioned, is for educational programming, and 90% of that is salary and benefits. Our special purpose funds are restricted grants provided for specific initiatives. So for example, our recent playground installations at Alberni Elementary School and Sumas Elementary were targeted initiatives. That funding could not be allocated to other capital projects. And then our capital fund, which is restricted and supports our school buildings and major infrastructure projects. And as Trustee Washington already mentioned, artificial turf replacement is not eligible for targeted major or minor capital funding through the Ministry of Education. As a result, there's no provincial capital programming to support the replacement, and the district does not have the internal funding sources to fund a project of this scale. So given the level of regional use, we believe it's appropriate to consider the ADSS artificial turf field within the broader context of regional recreational infrastructure. And I note that that's something that aligns with your ACRD strategic plan. The facility serves multiple groups, school programs, city residents, residents across the regional district, and regional sports organizations. Because the benefit is shared, we believe the solution should also be shared. And that's why we're asking you to consider a partnership opportunity. This slide highlights that the model we're discussing is not unique to Port Alberni. Across Vancouver Island, artificial turf fields located on school properties are commonly delivered through shared partnerships between school districts, local governments, and community sports organizations. These partnerships recognize that while the field may sit on school property, it functions as community recreational infrastructure used well beyond the school day. A good example is the Vanier Secondary Turf Field in the Comox Valley, which was developed through a partnership between ST71, the Comox Valley Regional District, the City of Courtenay, and the Comox Valley United Soccer Club. In that case, the Comox Valley Recreation Commission coordinates the partnership and shared responsibilities. The key takeaway is that across Vancouver Island, shared investment reflects shared community benefit, which is why facilities like this are typically delivered through partnership agreements. This partnership model is what we're hoping to explore here in the Alberni Valley.
Thank you. Good afternoon. When this challenge was presented to us, we really had two potential project paths we could go down: replacement with a like surface or replacement with a natural grass field. Through consultation with our engineering consultants, replacing with a natural grass field has all but been exhausted due to the fact it's home to our geothermal grid underneath the ground. So we have about 30 centimeters of crushed gravel and drainage that would have to be removed to replace with a natural grass. So going down this route is not an option. Also, the all-weather playability of an artificial turf is something that can't be matched. A lot of times in our region, natural grass fields are shut down due to rain and mud.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. I just wanted to show you here an illustrative partnership model. Sorry, my mouth is dry. This slide provides an illustrative example of how a shared funding model could work based on preliminary estimates of approximately $1 million. And we did meet on this on Monday, and $1 million is a fairly firm number. We envision contributions from several partners. See there, it shows the Pacific Rim School District, the City of Port Alberni, the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District, and then community fundraising or grants. These numbers, as I said, are illustrative, but they do demonstrate how a collaborative approach could make the project achievable. Excuse me. This slide highlights two important points: the immediate need and the long-term solution. First, the immediate situation. The turf field is now beyond its expected service life, and continued operation without the replacement is not sustainable. In short term, replacing the service requires a shared partnership between the organizations that rely on the facility. Equally important is the long-term approach. If partners establish a life cycle replacement reserve, the next turf replacement can be planned and funded gradually over time, rather than becoming another urgent issue. My apologies. Further agreements could include annual contributions to a joint asset replacement reserve, clear life cycle expectations within joint use agreements, and adjusted rental rates and fees. Community user groups have already indicated that modest adjustment to fees are a reasonable way to support long-term sustainability. With proper asset planning, the annual contributions required for further replacement would be relatively small when shared across partners and users. So the partnership we're discussing today would address both the immediate replacement need and create a sustainable model for the future. As I stated earlier, our request today is straightforward. Several partners are already at the table, including the school district, the City of Port Alberni, and local sports organizations. We are inviting the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District to join this partnership conversation. The goal would be to work collaboratively toward a sustainable replacement plan for this regional recreation asset. The field has long provided a shared benefit to the community. Now it requires shared leadership and a shared solution. Thank you, and we would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. If we could stop sharing, then that would be great. So I'll open it up for comment. I have Dr. Siga, Director Haggard, and then Dr. Boyko, and then Director Roth.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. We were aware of this previously. I'm just a little bit concerned because basically all of our businesses and functions are taxation funded. And the fact that this has gone for what, 20 years? No, over 10 years, and there doesn't seem to have been any capital planning for it is a bit of a red flag for me. So I wouldn't mind a comment on that. I'm also wondering about community schools funding and whether that's a possibility or a loan through the Municipal Finance Authority. And I don't know the answers to any of these things, so if I could get some comments, that'd be great.
Does anyone want to take any of those?
I'll try to address those questions just briefly. First, I want to acknowledge, as Trustee Washington did in the opening slide, that we are clear that asset planning to this point could have been better, and that's part of what's got us here, and part of what we acknowledge we need to do a better job of moving forward. Also, community dependency on a facility, we didn't foresee that. I think when the turf field was opened, it was one of the first turfs in the area, and we said, oh, why not let soccer join on there and use it after school, and now the majority of their program is delivered through there. with regarding community schools funding, this would be far above any of our community school funding that we receive. Those are very modest budgets for Wickaninnish Community School and Bamfield Community School, and they're making full use of that funding and then some. And I think there was a third question, but I might have forgotten it. Yeah, I guess for that, I would acknowledge that unfortunately our secretary treasurer and those who would be best suited to address those detailed questions around finances couldn't be here today, but the financing options available to us do not present a suitable option for this right now.
Thank you for that. I have Director Haggard and then Director Boyko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a comment and then 3 questions, if I may. I did talk to someone who is, I'm not sure if he's on the executive, but he certainly is a coach who's very involved in the Soccer Association. And he said this turf field has been very integral into the growth of soccer the last few years. So I think that shows how important it is to the community. And unfortunately, just to follow up with what Dr. Siga said, many groups and organizations, including local municipal governments, have not planned ahead for replacement of infrastructure. So it's not the school board's fault. I think that's a fault of everyone. So my first question is the Soccer Association, are they contributing to the replacement of the field?
Just response for yeah, they are a part of our partnership meetings and they're part of finding a collaborative solution. They've certainly indicated a willingness to do that. And we've been looking at grant opportunities that are available. We've been looking at rental revenues, fees, and part of moving to the next step is getting detailed of who will be a part of that partnership and what opportunities for funding exist. So yes, the Soccer Association is on board to help. They as well as our district acknowledges that $1 million replacement cost is beyond their means in the timeline. And just regarding your comment around participation, absolutely, the Soccer Association, some of them are here, directly link the turf field to increase participation.
Yeah, and I had the same question as Director Siga did. If the school board has any ability to borrow the money and then the community partners could sign on as part of that repayment plan, has that been investigated at all by the school board, or you're not sure because the financial people aren't there today?
We have discussed it. We don't see a readily available financing option available to us, but I want to acknowledge too that our superintendent is acting as the interim secretary treasurer right now, and he's not able to be here.
Okay, I think that might be a really good option that I would like for you to investigate. I think if we could contribute solely over the next 5 to 10 years, it would be much less of a big tax hit instead of $200,000 all at once, if that makes sense. And then my last question, thank you so much, is can you talk about the benefits of the turf field versus a grass field? I know you mentioned about all-weather playability, but is there any other benefits that the turf field has over grass fields?
Certainly, intensity of use is a huge and all weather. The anecdotally, what the Soccer Association shares is that players it's more comfortable. There's less mud and dirt, particularly for younger players. It seems to increase their comfort and willingness to engage in soccer. And in terms of field hockey, our Field Hockey Association has made it very clear, without a turf, they would not have an organization.
Thank you so much. We did have our chief medical officer here a few weeks ago, and she did talk about how important sports are, or physical activity is to our youngsters. So I will be supporting and working with you on whatever we can in order to try and get the turf field replaced. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And one thing that James did not mention is, of course, maintenance. Maintenance is a lot less on a turf field. So year to year, we are not expending much money with maintenance as well. So Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Next up, we have Director Boyko and then Dr. Roth.
Thank you, Chair. I got about 5 questions here, but this is the third item this year of provincial responsibility that taxpayers are paying for separately that's coming to the board for additional funding and is making up the majority of our tax increases. First thing is about the road, then we're talking about a medical clinic, and now we're talking about a school district 70 assets part of the property. So one of my main concerns here is echoed by the other directors here is asset life and how come this was not prepared for. And now we're assuming that, yes, we're going to put some money forward for it. But when I go through your line item budget, there's $224,000 put aside for asset replacement. Is that not appropriate for this asset, or is that used for the new roof at Alberni Elementary? And is it the same budget, or how does that work?
Yeah, thank you. I oversee the minor and major capital projects. I can speak about the new roof and the playgrounds, that those are targeted funds through a minor capital project. So the roof at Alberni was funded through the SEP, so School Enhancement Program. In terms of the capital portion of our budget on the line item, I don't have an answer about that.
Okay, it'd be good to know because it does say asset replacement and $250,000 per year. Secondly, having a proper asset replacement program, that raises some red flags for me that hasn't existed in the past, and now we're going to start doing it. Can anyone access this field and book it, or is it only restricted to School District 70 soccer players and field hockey? As in, the reason I'm asking that is when I add up the numbers, that is 2.9% of the Port Alberni Valley population, and it seems fairly restricted. And can other user groups book this asset as well?
Yeah, so the rental of district facilities is overseen by the operations department. So my team up at Maybell. Currently, it's mainly being booked through minor soccer and field hockey, but it can be rented out by other users.
Okay. And final question here, if you go to page 9 of your presentation, where you had your $1 million broken down into some very simple pockets of 400,000, 200, 200, and 200. How were those numbers arrived at? It doesn't look like it was based on land size or population or usage or anything. It was just like pulled out of a hat.
Really, that was merely an example that was provided for illustrative purposes. In terms of the district contribution, we wanted to recognize that 1, we need to make a contribution, and 2, that would be in line with the funds we recognized as soon as the lifetime was reached that we needed a replacement. Originally, we thought we would be able to replace with a natural grass field. So that contribution is in recognition of our the funding, or the rental revenue that was generated and held on to, and also what we think we can allocate from our annual facilities grant.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I have Director Roth, Director Mastrangelo, and then Director Steer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your work and your presentation. I have a couple questions here. Is funding available for non-artificial or natural grass fields through the ministry? I may have missed that in your presentation. Maybe I'll just read this really quickly. Are you considering a regional service? Although the field is heavily used, it is still school property owned and operated and controlled by SD70. For something to become a regional service, several legal steps must be taken. Maybe Daniel or Terry could explain the process of creating a service area of the regional district. And I just wanted you to know that our region is already facing financial pressure from emergency services, waste management, water systems, local infrastructure. Taking on a school capital project would divert funds away from core responsibilities, and that we can't keep adding costs to everyone's tax bill. We have many residents on fixed or limited incomes, and our region has a lower than average household income. So basically, is funding available for natural grass fields through the ministry, and are you considering a regional service?
So all the capital funding streams that the Ministry of Education and now the Ministry of Infrastructure offer. There's only one, and that's our annual facilities grant, and that's spread across all of our facilities, and it's the only one that doesn't require a capital bylaw. So that's in the capital plan submissions. That is to address issues with facilities that come up unexpectedly. And so there is, and that's where James was mentioning about our contribution. Part of that would be coming out of our annual facilities grant.
Okay, and what about service areas? Maybe, I'm not sure if we would need to create one, but I think that we might. Could you expand on that, Daniel?
Yeah, so if we were to look at a regional service or a contribution from the regional district, we'd have to create a service that allows for that to occur. And so in a similar way that we're exploring things like aquatics is a good example, we'd probably explore something along the lines of recreation or sports fields or whatnot in a sub-regional way. So sub-regional being the Alberni Valley would probably be the area of focus. So we would have to do our due diligence in creating that service, and then in the creation of the service, we would likely have a referendum with the public where they get to vote and decide on that. Obviously, the service would also then break down things like you've already identified, which is like how much would each area be paying, right? So if it was a regional service, the city would be part of that. And so they would have a contribution through the regional district. And then each one of the areas in the valley, so Sprout Lake, Beaver Creek, Cherry Creek, and Beaufort would all have a contribution that would be per an apportionment formula. So we are working feverishly in 2026 towards cracking the nut of apportionment and what is deemed to be equitable. And of course, once we get that, it would be easier to talk about the development of services such as this. But Director Roth is correct. We would need some sort of service in order to make a contribution. And there's many ways for us to do that, but this is just roughly what it would look like if we were to go down that path.
The time of it, it takes quite a while to go down that road.
It does take time. I think realistically, if the board wanted to move down the direction of creating a service, we would likely be looking at your 2027 fiscal. So we work on it this year, the hopes of getting a service in place in time so that we would have some collection ability in 2027. The other angle is grant and aid. And so currently the board does have the ability to collect funds under grant and aid. And so they would, well, we could make a contribution under grant and aid as a bridge, but that would be, again, would be an area for us to discuss. And of course, regional districts, I'll back up and say, like, if there was a service and we had a partnership, whether that be a service agreement or a partnership agreement, or if there was a long-term lease saying, you know what, the surface use of this property is now part of a regional asset, then we could look at our borrowing ability, right? So with the Municipal Finance Authority, where we would have a greater ability, I think, over the school board in terms of borrowing, whether it's long-term or short-term, to do what needs to be done. So I think we are potentially a good partner. We're just a slow-moving partner in terms of getting to yes.
All right, thank you for that. That brings us to Director Mastrangelo and then Director Steer.
First, thank you for the presentation. And I remember discussing this item not too long ago. I had a couple questions and maybe some suggestions. There are three major corporations or businesses in the area that house and employ and are responsible to our youth in this area as well. So I don't know if you're interested in going down that avenue, but sometimes they have deeper pockets. One of them, and I'm kind of hesitant to put this outline, but Cermak Canada has their freshwater boot lagoon hatchery just outside of Sprout Lake. They're a very significant business, and they funded the entire turf field over in Campbell River a couple of years ago. I know this because I was on the sponsorship committee. The second one is Maritime Pacific Engineering Limited. They're also in this community. That's their families and the children they should be looking out for as well. I think it's a good time of the year to be having this conversation with them as they go into a new budget. They often have percentages that are focused towards specific sponsorship and contribution committees. So I highly suggest you reaching out to them and seeing if they could help collaborate on this project. And the third one would be looking into the forestry industry in this area and seeing what they have in their sponsorship and committee. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you, Director Mastrangelo. And want to acknowledge that corporate sponsorship and donation has definitely been part of the conversation with our partner groups. We've had some informal approaching and of other corporations and interest in sponsorship. We felt it was important to get some clarity around local government and possible partnership with the city of Port Alberni before pursuing that too far, but that's definitely part of the conversation.
Okay, thank you for that. That brings us to Director Steer and then Director Beckett, and then I think that'll be it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair. Thank you. And through the chair, I just wanted to, I think most of the questions were asked that it was around the service, potential service model for the ACRD and that apportionment method. And Mr. Sayand clearly indicated where the questions that I had that would be answered, because many of the directors don't know, but I'm sure the trustees do know, the District of Tofino and SD70 has a partnership agreement around the ball fields at Wickaninnish Community School, a successful partnership recognizing a community asset. So it would be very difficult for the District of Tofino to contribute to a funding arrangement for that turf field in Port Alberni. That being said, I'm interested in the conversation about moving forward in terms of the potential financing for that. And just to Director Hager, just as a small quip, Tofino was very proud of their asset management over the last decade in terms of our responsibilities of moving forward through a capital and infrastructure levy. So we feel very proud of our asset management and looking at it that long term. So thank you for that, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Director Steer. That brings us to Director Beckett and then Director Sparrow.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. Fully supportive of trying to continue to offer year-round turf fields. The one question I have is, while you've talked about sponsorship, have you ever considered, contractual naming rights by one significant donor for the field?
Absolutely, and we have recently updated our policy and procedure related to naming rights, and that would definitely be on the table for this.
Great, thank you. Brings us to Director Sparrow. Please go ahead.
Thank you. A few things, a few questions. Like MFA, I don't think you can use that because you're not municipal, so you'd have to be, like we said, ownership. And we're so quick, that'd probably be a year, probably two, before we could actually get something to ask the people if they'd like to do something in order to get the service area to get you going. So that's the slow part of it. I think, do you have an asset management plan for all your services now? Because it seems like this $1 million sort of cropped up out of nowhere. Do you have an asset management for all your facilities? Two?
Yeah. So luckily, the minor and major capital funding that the Ministry of Education and Infrastructure provide us cover most of our major assets when it comes for replacement. The turf field just does not fall into any category except for AFG.
I'll give a few more things. So the only way to short fund this, I guess, in the interim is be, like you said, through grant and aid. So we take that simple number, 200,000 out of a budget of 38 million. Sounds pretty small. But then you break it down into Cherry Creek's portion, which is probably about 9% of the population of Alberni Valley, which again is small. And then you put how much that's going to be, which is really a small number. But then you put it into the Cherry Creek budget, which is conservative. We'll give it that. And if it went in grant and aid, for Cherry Creek to put their portion of money in, it'd be a 2.3% increase in taxes for this year for $1 million. For 200,000 for the regional district, because we rely a lot on grants, and a lot of other funding to get what we want to do done. So although it sounds real small, it actually is a pretty hard hit percentage wise to do it as we want to do here. It would be easier with a long term of 10 years of 100,000 a year for $1 million. That would be a lot easier, but it's going to be hard to try and find that money this year to do anything with. And you can't just do like say 300,000 this year and 700,000. You do the whole field at once. So you need $1 million up front. Don't you? Is that a good question?
Yeah, we have some options to fund it through RAFG over 2 consecutive years on smart timing with how the Ministry of Education's fiscal year ends. In terms of when the field's last day will be, we've conducted GMAX tests, so head impact tests on the field, and it remains safe. And so our next test is November of this year to ensure that it's safe again for subsequent years.
Okay, thank you. But your projected timeline is 12 months roughly for the field to be somewhat unusable. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. On December of this year, the board will be making a decision on prolonging its use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Daniel, did you have something before we go to Director Haggard?
I just wanted to add one thing, which might be dated, but I believe the soccer association's here as well. And having raised 2 soccer players, they are now gone. So my information might be dated, but back in 2019, just pre-pandemic, Qualicum Beach was working with the Oceanside Soccer Association, and they had a little over 200,000 to put towards a turf field. That grant was not successful, so I don't know what Oceanside ended up doing. But they were targeted for specific turf fields, so they couldn't apply those funds elsewhere at the time. Now, I know that between Nanaimo and Comox, you have the only turf field. So there's nothing in Parksville, Qualicum Beach. There's nothing in the surrounding area. You've got to go to Nanaimo or Ladysmith or further south, or you've got to go Comox North, obviously Campbell River being the largest grouping of turf fields. So it might be interesting just to see if they're still there, because I do know that my kids included way back in the day would come here in winter months when the Qualicum fields were closed, grass fields were closed for maintenance. In the winter months, all the playing would occur here. And so there might be a willingness there to work with Oceanside Soccer as well.
Okay, thank you. Director Haggard, please go ahead, and then I'll finish us off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to make a suggestion. I would like to ask the school district if they could put their heads together and see if they could come up with any financing. I do agree. I think this would be a big hit for the taxpayers all at once, but I would certainly be willing to support having it contributing, over a length of time in order to repay that loan. So I would like to ask the school district if they could look at some kind of financing options and then come back and work with our staff, and then staff would come back and bring some suggestions back to the board. This is a community asset and it is used by everyone in the Alberni Valley, and I would like to see it stay in the Alberni Valley because it is a huge asset to our, not just soccer players and field hockey players, but to the whole community. So I want to keep it here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll finish this up. I don't know that I have questions per se, but one thing I will state is that have you spoken to, you did note that you spoke to the city, which is good because municipalities have way more financial options than a regional district. Regional districts have at least 2 limbs tied behind their back at any one time when it comes to being able to make any decisions outside of the deal. All of the services need to be vetted and created and be subject to a referendum. So if we were to do anything, even if it was just a flow through for getting access to Municipal Finance Authority monies, you're going to wait until after the election. You have to. That's just, we cannot move that fast. That being said, there can be a concerted political effort across the entire Alberni Valley to make this important. And I would suggest you do so. Because you're going to have to get in front of it and keep moving that forward no matter what. And this is involve your parent advisory groups as well. Have you spoken to the Tishat, Hupachesset, Gwiat, Ho-Chuklassit tribe, all these other First Nations, other organizations? If not, maybe you should try, because there may be opportunities for them to help or contribute in some way, shape, or form. In addition, the only thing I'll leave you with is, and you can respond to any of this if you want. This feels like it could intersect positively with the FIFA efforts. So the World Cup efforts that are ongoing, if there's something that could be done in relation to that, or to find funding that would be coming our way, if we're successful, could be applied to something like this, because this is directly involving youth soccer, and Canadian Soccer Association needs all the help it can get. So with that in mind, I wish you the best of luck. We do have other options available through grants and aid, but it'll be really hard to convince the board to use such a ham-fisted way of dealing with this. The better way is to deal with create some sort of service, even if it's for flow through of borrowing or some other arrangement. And I would suggest in the future, once we have another conversation about this, that you really think through the financial arrangements and the considerations of apportionment or the share of the cost, and how to best approach that. Thank you for your presentation. We had a very good discussion. Any last words?
Just an appreciation for the time and space for you to hear us. We appreciate your suggestions and willingness. We are definitely bringing this forward, and that's part of us being here today. And one thing that would be great is if there's a contact person at the regional district that we might share some of this information with and be a liaison for future work and communication.
All right, I think that would be Daniel. So I'll just leave off with this. I don't know if this is a provincial thing, but there's like a Grumpy Taxpayer Alliance thing that happens. They're very influential. You might want to start motivating parents and other users and individuals within the community to help kind of bring that other argument to the fore here, because this is one of those things that needs that kind of pressure. So a little political advice is don't let up the pressure. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us into the next agenda item, which is our minutes, which are subject to a consent agenda. So before we get to the consent agenda motion, which is to pass all of them, would anyone like to pull anything out of the consent agenda? If not, we can have someone move that we receive and adopt items A through D under section 5. Dr. Roth, please go ahead. And Director Mastrangelo, go ahead.
I was just going to move it.
Yeah. Okay, moved and seconded. Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, that brings us to item 7, which is the public input period, which I don't believe there is any. I don't know if he's the public. He's the Fifth Estate. He's the media. You could, I guess. This is a time where we have the public can be permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes on an agenda item. No video, no use of presentations, no handouts, no props. And if you're a virtual attendee, raise your hand at Zoom to request to speak. In-person attendees, please raise your hand to speak and introduce yourself, including your address. Also, there's a bunch of things you can't talk about, but those have to do with like planning matters, and the law's pretty clear on that one. I don't think anybody has any questions. We do have a question period as well at the end, if that matters, but yeah. Okay, with that in mind, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is item 8, which is correspondence for information. Is there anything anybody wants to pull out of request or correspondence? Director Sparrow, please go ahead.
I want to pull at item B about the volunteering for the fire department equipment and training fund. I guess the lack thereof moving forward, it's going to affect the fire department stuff because it was 40 grand per department. That's big and significant. So are they got to up their taxes or lower their expectations? But it's just one way you can see the federal government tightening the belts on all these things. So I get the feeling there'll be a lot less grant availability coming up in the future.
I'm inclined to agree. There's something that I think Director Boyko said in the previous agenda item that I think is wildly applicable, which is the province is retreating from a lot of its responsibilities when it comes to emergency services. That's one of my top priorities. This feels like something we should work together with other communities on bringing to the AVICC and the UBCM. Very much agreed. Anyway, is there any other comments or questions? Oh, apparently it's we're just checking the plug-in because it's hard to hear. Director Roth, please go ahead, and then Director Boyko. Oh, he didn't? Okay, Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Terry just did what I asked. We can't hear the people when they talk sideways and the mics are far away, so thank you very much.
Okay. Do you want a mic check just in case?
Can you hear me now? What do you
Look at your mic, please, and talk.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Now, yeah, thank you, Debbie. Now we know what's going on. Appreciate it.
Okay, and making sure that only one microphone is on at any one time can help as well. Any other items you'd like to pull out? Going once? Going twice? Okay, would anyone like to move to receive correspondence? Thank you, Director Roth, seconded by Director Steer. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 9, which is 9A, the first reading of bylaw F1174, 2026 to 2030 financial plan. Terry, thank you. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. So attached to the bylaw today, and there was an email sent out earlier today with an updated Schedule A. I apologize for the lateness on it, but we've been just finalizing audit numbers. So some of the 2025 actuals and the resulting surpluses did change. They all went in a downward direction, which is always an easier message for me to sell here at the table. The other thing was we did learn that that fire department grant was denied, so I removed that and also just noticed that one of the items for the Alberni Valley Emergency Planning ESS is a rolling trailer. That's actually in our existing grant. So we need to capitalize. So I've made those adjustments. I don't believe there's anything to be done today besides giving first reading. I don't know of any adjustments that the directors are wanting to make at this time. There is a meeting tomorrow of the Salmon Beach Committee, which might give us a change here when we go to do second reading at the end of the month. But that's kind of the only outstanding item that I know of. So looking for first reading, but happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, just to start off, it seems like a lot of the changes have already gone through committee and been incorporated into first reading. Is that correct?
Yes, all the changes that were requested at the committee, because it was just a draft, were all updated and have all been included in this financial plan bylaw component of it.
That was very efficient. Thank you. Director Roth and then Director Boyko. Okay, Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. When I go through the numbers here, Terry, when I look at the increase in tax requisition and partial tax, I get an 8.6% overall tax increase, but you're saying it's like 7.03. Which one is correct?
When we talk about the tax, I do include the hospital district, and I do specify that it includes the hospital district as well. So the hospital district requisition has been flat at 1.8 million. So we talk about it in collective terms. I think I can look quickly, but I think you're right. I think we're about 8 if you look at regional district by itself.
Yeah, I get 8.6. I don't know. I urge the directors when we go through these line items, not just all at once, because this is all done throughout the year with different items, and it's kind of spread out, and it's really hard to pick out that this is what's causing tax increase. But we are in a very adverse tax climate in Canada. If you haven't noticed, the price of the pumps going through the roof. We're going to have inflation and interest rates going up here in the next month or two. Having large increases is problematic for all people, and I want us to think about what we can do to keep this at. And I know if I say CPI, everyone freaks out, but we got to get to a 2 or 3% model like we were before COVID, because living on COVID is not the problem, but we need to get back to a reasonable number for the taxpayers, or else we're going to have a lot of problems with people not being able to pay their taxes and afford to live in the valley, which is the cheapest place on the island. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Director Lacosia, please go ahead.
Just a quick, I've been asked to talk about this again. Our transit, custom transit in Handy Dart. We have some numbers as to the number of trips last year, which I find quite interesting. The number of trips, City of Port Alberni had 88% of them. Cherry Creek had 0.9, Beaver Creek had 9.7, and Sprout Lake had 0.4. And the T-Shat then had 0.9. So if I take 50,000 that we had last year and I divide it by the number of trips, I get from Sprout Lake, each trip costs $658. So we're really concerned about that, and we'd like that to be looked at. I know there was a motion made in the past that they're going to have a review of that, but I would really encourage it, because what we have here is not fair numbers.
Thank you, Director Lacosia. That is definitely a part of the apportionment discussion that will be happening in the future. Director Roth, please go ahead.
I was just going to make the motion
Please go ahead.
that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to the bylaw cited as bylaw F1174, 2026 to 2030 Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Financial Plan.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Sparrow. Just as a reminder to everyone, first reading is the first shot. There's time in between first and second reading to make decisions and to pressure your directors to make decisions as well. This is a part of the political process, the democratic process. So we will eventually get to third reading and to adoption. And by the time we hit third reading, usually there aren't very many amendments to be made. So now would be the time to start sending emails, I suppose. Any further comments? And to your directors, not to the staff, please. With that in mind, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item B, which is bylaw R1033, West Coast landfill tipping fee and regulation bylaw amendment. Thank you, Tanya. Please go ahead.
Thank you. The item before you for consideration is adoption of a West Coast tipping fee bylaw amendment. As you know, West Coast landfill is experiencing financial challenges due to limited revenue streams that do not cover rising costs. Previously, residential waste and C&D tipping fees were approved in 2024 and 2025 for increases. It's recommended that tipping fees at West Coast landfill be increased in 2026 as well to support cost recovery at the West Coast waste management service area. Staff are recommending a 5% adjustment to the tipping fees for Wade residential waste. So it would go from 150 per ton to 158 per ton, so 150 to 158. And then C&D waste, construction and demo, from 185 per ton to 194 per ton. The proposed rate adjustment will increase the availability of funds that can be used for daily operations and upkeep of facilities and management needs at West Coast Landfill. I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? I had one on those number increases. How do they compare to other jurisdictions on the island?
Oh, yeah. So we did do a cost comparison to what other jurisdictions, our neighboring jurisdictions, are experiencing for waste management. And so I have the actual numbers for you. So in Nanaimo, the cost per ton for residential waste is 155, and for C&D it's 155, but they are due for an increase in April 2026. I'm not sure what the increased rates will be, but that was their prior rate for 2025. Comox Valley is 170 per ton for residential waste, and for C&D it's 205 per ton for clean waste and 308 for mixed C&D loads. Cowichan Valley, 242 per ton for residential waste, 244 42 for painting, wood, and roofing waste, but they don't take general C&D waste at that landfill. And then for us, ACRD, we're 150. So we're compared to those jurisdictions, we would be the lowest for residential and slightly above Nanaimo, but below Comox and Cowichan for C&D.
Thank you for that. RDN's definitely having discussions about that right now. I listened in. I have Director Steer and then Director Sparrow.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair, and thank you, Tanya, for that, for the presentation, very much in support of the fees. One of the things that I did was thinking about when we were having the discussions at the West Coast Committee and beyond was the incentive, and this has been brought up a number of times around the C&D contributions to the landfill. And while we're doing both a 5% on both the residential and C&D, there may be a conversation around where to look at and the emphasis to be placed, and maybe we can look at the difference between the residential and the CDI and into the future when we look at those increases and put the increased apportionment towards those that are creating the most issues. And so there's just a thought process, and I know that we went through a conversation on this, the 5 and 5. So, but thank you for that, and maybe into the future we can further that conversation.
Thank you, Director Steer. Director Sparrow.
Well, thank you for that. I was noticing on page 46, the ICI has 172 for this year, 191 for next year, and 212 for 2028. Do you plan on also increasing these ones the next 2 years over a 3-year schedule, or are you just going to do it year by year and see how it plays out?
I would like to look ahead and do a phased increase similar to what we did with ICI. However, for now, until I can really dive into the numbers and look closer at them, similar to what Director Steer was suggesting, this is a recommendation for sort of the interim, but I do want to do a deep dive into the rates and look ahead more.
So this is kind of a bridge or a gap filler into something more.
We just don't want to fall behind. I think that's key.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further comments? Did I miss anybody? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to start the motions? I was going to say music, sorry. Anyone? Thank you, Director Steer. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'll do it from here. That the Alberni-Clackatt Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw R1033-10 Amendment West Coast Landfill Tipping Fee and Regulation Bylaw 2026.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed?
I'll move second reading.
Motion carried. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Mastrangelo. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
I'll move third reading.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Roth. Comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
And I'll move adoption.
Thank you. And seconded by. Thank you, Director Mastrangelo. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, that brings us to item C, which is the Bamfield Water System rate increase. Eddie, please go.
You are muted, and I have food in my mouth.
Sorry about that. 1 second. Staff are looking for 3 readings and adoption of bylaw number F1147-5, which was supported by the Bamfield Area Services Committee at its February 24th, 2026 meeting. This amendment relates to an $8 per month increase to the Bamfield water system rates effective April 1st, 2026, reflecting the rising costs of the operating contract and helping to ensure the long-term financial sustainability of the service. The attached bylaw update replaces Schedule A of the existing Bamfield water system rates and regulations bylaw and will provide approximately $17,500 in additional revenue in 2026 and $23,000 annually. Staff will continue to evaluate future rate adjustments to strengthen capital reserve contributions and keep up with the cost of living increases, and will bring this information to a future Bamfield Area Services Committee meeting. Happy to answer any questions the board may have surrounding this report.
Thank you, Eddie. Director Beckett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Eddie and staff, for all your work on this. I would like to make the motion that the Alberni-Clackatt Regional District Board of Directors gives first reading to bylaw number F1147-5, Banfield Water System Rates and Regulation Amendment Bylaw 2026.
Thank you. Do a second. Thank you, Director Roth. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Please continue.
I'd like to move second reading.
Thank you. Do a seconder. Thank you, Director Mastrangelo. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed?
And I would move third reading.
Thank you, seconder. Thank you, Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
And finally, I'd move adoption, sir.
Thank you. Seconded by. Thank you, Director Roth. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so stick around, Eddie. We have the West Coast Transit Millstream bus stop location. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I think you can hear me now.
Yep.
The West Coast
Yep.
Committee reviewed this report at its February 18th, 2026 meeting, supporting retaining the existing location for the bus stop within the community of Millstream. This recommendation reflected resident feedback, safety considerations, and significantly higher costs and complexity associated with moving and constructing new Highway 4 stop locations. With the board and committee support, staff are proposing to keep the stop in its current location and then proceed with installing a bus shelter there as part of the broader shelter installation project within the West Coast Transit Service. This approach maintains current service levels for the Millstream residents, avoids the need for new highway crossing infrastructure, and aligns with ongoing transit improvements in the region. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. Any comment? Director Siga, do you want to take this?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just a comment. Hopefully in the future we can have crossings at the key points where there are already streetlights. But for right now, I think it's in the best interest of all for me to put this motion forward that the Alberta Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to leave the location of the bus stop within the Millstream community where it is and move forward with the installation of a bus shelter in this location as part of the bus shelter installation project. Thanks.
Great. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, everyone. Director Steer. Any further comments? Director Sparrow, please go ahead.
Thank you. So this is back in the community, but they didn't want people driving through the community because they moved across the road. They didn't like that either. So we're back in the community again. Is that where we're going with this?
It seems like it's a different part of the community saying this part. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's the same community. Yeah.
Okay.
Director Siga, do you have, yeah, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to respond to that. Yeah, the initial concerns were the bus going through the community where we don't have sidewalks, the roads are narrow, and kids play because there's no playground, so they're on the streets. So it was a safety issue, but there are worse safety issues when we have people trying to cross the highway and kids getting off a bus where it isn't lighted. So yeah, this is definitely the best option currently.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, we are not in danger of losing quorum, but please, Indigenous and municipal directors, please stick around for quorum. That brings us into planning matters. This one is for all directors, though, so everyone gets to participate. Alex, please take it away on item 10.1A, a Tofino official community plan. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a referral from the District of Tofino on an amendment to their official community plan bylaw to incorporate policies that intend to address growth management, housing needs, and infrastructure capacity in alignment with their housing needs reports that they completed this year and their water plan assessment as well, and to better coordinate with the Cloquet First Nation. So the amendments have been reviewed. They are focused entirely within the District of Tofino boundaries and do not appear to impact the surrounding Long Beach communities in Area C. I will note that a focus on residential and affordable housing that they've noted in their policies could have a positive impact on the broader region and in alignment with the housing needs we've identified in each of the communities in the region. The district will be hosting a public hearing on this next week, and staff recommend that the board direct a referral response, noting that the ACRD's interests are unaffected. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Dr. Steer, do you want to take this? Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. I'll move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to provide a referral response to the District of Tofino's OCP Amendment Bylaw 1290-02 to advise that the ACRD's interests are unaffected.
Thank you. Dr. Ross, seconded. Great. Any comments? No, I don't have any comments. Good work, though. Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. No, I'll say it. I like Tofino's file names more than I like ours. Okay. Now that brings us to reports. Is that the only planning matter? Oh, there we go. No reports. Next up is other business. These are late items. I think this is a notice of motion. So there's a staff recommendation noted to it. Daniel, do you want to speak to it? Please go ahead.
And I'm sure Director Boyko, who made the motion, might want to make some comments, but at this time, there's two elements to the motion that was forwarded. One is pertinent to the lease lines, and we just wanted to make sure that there was clarity for people who do observe that the fence that was installed in late 2025 is a fence for the airport and does not reflect the lease lines, and so there's an important difference. The other is with regard to lease space used. We can do a deeper dive, but we do have an active negotiation. And so if we were going into the details of that current negotiation, which is the subject of the location being discussed in the notice motion, then we'd recommend going in camera.
Sorry about that, Dr. Boyko. I was just going on who the staff tag was for the item, but if you want to speak to this, please go ahead.
I'll just say a couple things right off the bat. So recently there's been a lease expansion and the leasee has used more land than was initially applied for last summer. And it is very close to the fence line, if not exactly on the fence line. Pictures, maps, details have been shared with all staff and directors already, so everyone should have it. I don't know if you have it, Renee, but I can send it to you if you have a way to look at it. But basically, we are spending in our capital budget $125,000 to do lease lot expansions as a plan so that we can generate more revenue for the Alberni Valley Airport and reduce the tax burden of $610,000 per year every year for I think the next 23 years. And then we'll just go down to capital costs. But we need to be fair and equitable to all partners of the airport and always remember that the taxpayers own it. And if someone's using it and not doing it with an approved lease and paying their fair share compared to everybody else, it becomes a problem. So we can talk in camera, but at the same time, we need to make a motion to investigate this extra lease land and get an idea what's happening and come back to directors about what the plan is moving forward. Because this land has been used for 6, 8, 10 months now without an approved lease. Thank you.
Okay, this is only a suggestion, but it feels like we'd be able to have a wider discussion in camera, just given that there is negotiation in place as well. So what I might suggest is we have a motion to move this to the in-camera discussion.
We can.
I'll change the motion to say, let's do have a report back from staff at some point in the future. And that report might be in camera, but we can carry on this discussion in camera today and go forward that way. Does that work?
I'm interested in a bit of that context to have some touch on it today, but if we wanted to have a report as well, we should be able to move that motion here if need be.
I would like to have a report that will come to us, but also needs to be to the public as well with the lease details that are happening out there, because it's very visible what's taking place.
Okay, we can rise and report after having that discussion at a future meeting as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Roth, second or?
Yeah, I was going to second that.
Okay. Any
And
other
let's have a recorded vote on this, please.
Okay, recorded vote. Director Steer, comment?
Yeah, no, just, so I just want to be clear on what the motion now will read. If maybe I could have that clarity on what the motion will now read, other than what is on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia, please go ahead.
So the resolution that I have is that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors directs staff to investigate and provide a report regarding the additional lease expansion of 84,000, sorry, the number, at the Alberni Valley Regional Airport where no lease exists, and provide options to the board that are equitable and fair to all leaseholders and to the taxpayers that own the aerodrome, including options such as separate leases backdated to when construction began on this additional area.
And then that item would be designated as an in-camera item, just so that the report can go into more detail. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that clarifies. Thank you.
Okay, Director Haggard, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel that our CEO has already responded to this, so I don't know what else would be added to the report other than what he has already reported on. So I'm really unclear as to what the actual vote should be on, because he's already reported on it. So if he just writes report on what he's already stated, I just don't see the relevance in that. The CEO has already responded to the motion, so I'm just not clear on what else he should be reporting on.
Director Boyko, please go ahead.
I think it's in the spirits of openness, transparency, and accountability, and just saying negotiations are taking place when something has already happened and it's very visible. I don't think that's very transparent, open, or accountable. That's the spirit of the report. Thank you.
Okay, so I would like for the bulk of a discussion to take place in camera for now, because there's a negotiation. Director Haggard, you may be correct. It may be nothing, but I want to be extremely careful when it comes to tipping our hand, so to speak. And so I wouldn't mind having this discussion in camera, and then we can decide what may go into a future report. Director Beckett, please go ahead.
I think you just answered my question, Mr. Chair, and I was trying to get some clarity, is that the report would be brought back in camera. So is there any need to discuss this today during our in-camera session?
My consideration here is that there may be information that could be shared that is confidential in nature, that may put us in the direction of a yes or a no for future conversations. But in the event that that isn't, regardless of whether or not it goes in either direction, some of the information that may move us, it might be subject to confidentiality, or it'd be silly to kind of reveal in public because of the ongoing negotiation that's happening. So that's just like, let's move the actual meat of the conversation in camera, and then we'll make a decision there too, right? So the idea would be to move this discussion to in camera, which would just be later today. Director Haggard, go ahead.
Yeah. So if we're going to be having this discussion in camera, are we withdrawing the motion then?
No, it would just be, the motion would be to move that discussion and this potential motion to in camera.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that's all the motion. So the motion stays the same, but the things that we talk about to make a decision regarding whether or not the motion goes forward may be subject to confidentiality, or just be a good idea because of an active negotiation. So that's the idea.
Clear as mud.
Yeah, clear as mud. So the big thing that I'm responding to here is Director Boyko may have a point, but whether or not we think he has a point, it may be subject to in-camera type information. And as a result, I would rather us be careful first, and then if it's okay, then we have a motion to do that. So, but we have to make that determination first. Director Haggard and then Director Siga.
Oh, sorry, I didn't lower my hand yet, sorry.
Okay. Director Siga, please go ahead.
Thank you. So my understanding of this is that we just need a motion currently to move this item to in camera, right?
Yeah, because the motion itself doesn't change because we haven't amended the motion. It's just, let's have a motion to move it to the in-camera agenda.
I'd like to make that motion, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone like to second that? Thank you, Director Lacourciere. Did you have any comments as well? I wasn't sure if you had your hand up.
Sorry, I did have a comment, but it was answered. And my comment or question was, is this moving to camera or not? But it's understood now what we're doing. Thank you.
Yep, that's my sense. So we will discuss this in the future. Today. It's just, I just want to be careful. Okay, so with that in mind, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Oh, question period. Any questions? No, no questions. And I think that's it. That brings us into recess, of which we'll go into the hospital district first. Could we have a motion to go into the hospital district meeting? Thank you, Director Roth, seconded by Director Sparrow. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. One moment while I scramble for the agenda. So, Dr. Haggard, I figured I would just chair this since you're online. That's okay?
That would be awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we're not in camera, but it's just the hospital district. Depends if you want to stay. No? Okay, see you later. All right, let's dig out the swear words now. All right, so we'll call the order at, what is the time? 2:51 p.m. We'll recognize that we're conducting our business on the territories primarily on the Hupatchis and Deschamps First Nations to recognize, affirm, and appreciate that fact. We are conducting our meeting online. We will forego introductions, however, because we've already done that. And just make it be known that people who are attending online as members of the public can raise their hands at the end and go from there. I do not think there's anybody in the attendees though, so I think we're okay. That brings us to the approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to move the agenda as presented? Thank you, Director Roth, seconded by Director Haggard. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. That brings us into declarations. Any declarations? I'd like to leave by 3:30. Moving us to the adoption of minutes. Item 6A is the adoption of meeting minutes for the Board of Directors, Wednesday, February 25th. Anyone like to move that? Thank you, Director Roth, seconded by Dr. Mastrangelo. Seeing no comments, all those in favor? All opposed? The motion carried. Ooh, upside down. Okay, public input period. There are no people, only politicians and staff. Item 8A is Island Health, correspondence for information. Would anyone like to speak to this or just move to receive it? Move to receive, Director Roth, seconded by Director Mastrangelo. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. No correspondence for action. Request for decision or decision regarding 10A, the annual budget for years 2026 to 2030. Terry, I assume it's you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so presented for you today is for second, third, and adoption of the ACRHD financial plan. No changes from what was presented at first reading. The contribution to Island Health at $550,000, and then building up that reserve for the Tofino General Hospital and the future of that project. And we can delay if there's other information that directors have that will impact it, but looking for adoption today.
Great, thank you. Would anyone like to start the motions? Director Steer, please go ahead.
Move that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give second reading to the bylaw cited as Alberni Clayoquot Regional Hospital District 2026 to 2030 annual budget number 142.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Haggard. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Please continue.
I'll move third.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Haggard. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
And then I'll move that the Alberta Clackwood Regional District Board of Directors adopt the bylaw cited as Alberta Clackwood Regional District 2026 to 2030 annual budget number 142.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Haggard. Any further comments? Seeing none, good work. Thank you. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, doesn't look like we have any reports unless anybody wants to give one. Seeing none, no question period, no late items. We have a motion to reopen or to end the recess. Thank you, Director Roth. Seconded by anybody? Director Lecossier, thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none of those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, we are adjourned. Okay, we'll back to the original in camera or the original agenda. So we'll be closing the meeting as per section 991A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality, as well as, since we moved this other item, item K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at the preliminary stages and that, in the view of the board, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district if it were held in public. It said council instead of board. Screwed me up. Okay, anyway. I'll move that because we'll be moving in camera. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Roth. Any